Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell. Verizon and AT&T have agreed to delay the launch of their 5G network for 2 weeks following pressure from the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, airline companies, and even Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. The aviation industry is concerned the 5G rollout could bring technical challenges or some safety concerns on top of the current disruption they're already dealing with from COVID and severe weather they've seen. Here to discuss more is Hugh, founder and president of Vertical Consultants and former AT&T attorney. Hugh, really glad to have you on here to kind of talk about this. Let's start here. How was the Biden administration able to come to this agreement with Verizon and AT&T, given that the two companies initially kind of refused and then kind of backtracked and changed their mind 24 hours later?
I think what happened is it's kind of like a fight. They had to break them up and come between them and put each in each respective corner. To the FAA and the aviation industry, they said, look, you need to step up or step out. You need to determine what the issue is. You need to identify it with more clarity so we can address it. Because right now, the issues that have come up with the altimeters, more particularly, they haven't provided a real understanding of what the issue is and how it can be resolved. To the telecom industry, more particularly AT&T and Verizon, they set them in their corner and said, look, even though you guys are big, powerful, have a lot of money, you still have to go through the federal government to operate your networks, and you have to sit to the side and let's try to get this resolved for the benefit of everybody.
And just briefly here, just in terms of understanding the problem or the concern, can you explain kind of further this 5G rollout, what it has to do with flights and the concern the FAA and airliners potentially have here?
Well, it comes down to what's an altimeter, and that's an altimeter determines the altitude of the planes coming closer to landing. And it's more particularly important when you have foggy or severe weather because you need to rely upon that piece of equipment. What the FAA and the aviation industry is saying, well, for some reason, they believe there's going to be interference between 5G on what's called C-band and this altimeter. The problem is, from the wireless side, they're saying, look, 40 other countries are operating with the same C-band level, and we're not seeing any kind of issue. This has been on the horizon for 2 years. There's been plenty of time to identify the issue, but the aviation industry and the FAA really haven't, again, set forth a really understanding of how to determine what the issue is and how to address it.
That's my biggest question. How are we here? You know, this has been in the works for, to your point, years. You know, $80 billion, I believe, has been invested, by both of these companies. How are we at the point where it's still murky, at least in the eyes of the FAA, in terms of safety concerns?
Well, that's a great question, because it really is. I think the wireless industry is scratching their heads and saying the same thing. I think what it comes down to is, I think that the bigger issue where we see this as being an issue is on the FAA and the aviation industry side. They have a fleet of planes that are aging, and they have been aging, and they have an inventory that really needs to be addressed. And the altimeters have an issue, and where it's a little bit different from over in Europe and Asia, that because of the age of the planes, they have different settings, different filters, and there's no standardization for calibration. And again, this has been ongoing, so this can be addressed. I think what, in our opinion only, is that what's happening is the FAA and more particularly the aviation industry is trying to deflect the issue they have, the bigger issue, and say, look, let's address this right now because we have everybody at the 12th hour trying to get this addressed with 5G, and let's try to figure out this issue and deflect it a little bit, the overriding issue of the age of the planes and some of the equipment on the planes.
So what happens from here? We've got this 2-week delay. Both sides going to come to the table, talk this out, look at the data, and then make a decision after the 2 weeks. And what do you think that decision ends up being?
Well, I think it's trying to solve a problem that's the same problem. It's 2 + 2 = 4. I don't see how that changes in the next 2 weeks. I think what is going to happen is they've given themselves a little bit of time on both sides, from the FAA and the aviation industry, to not get into a bigger problem. As you mentioned, there's already cancellations, delays all across the country. And if they were going to delay more flights and cancel more flights because of their fear of 5G, that had been a huge issue for them. I think from the AT&T and Verizon side, they've already conceded to say, look, we're going to put a buffer around the airports. We're going to lower the band or lower the power on the 5G within a mile radius of takeoff and landing. And so I think that's what the solution is right now. I think they're trying to diffuse the issue a little bit, come to some agreement between the parties, but ultimately look, this has got it. 5G has to roll out for a lot of different reasons, and the FAA and the aviation industry has to deal with the issues they have with their inventory planes.
And really quickly here, I've only got like 15 seconds, but just for clarity, any chance this halts the rollout of 5G?
Yes, there's a chance it continues to halt it because, again, it's not a committed issue that they don't continue to delay this past the 2 weeks.
I really appreciate your insight, you being here. This is a major story. We'll continue to follow Hugh Odom, founder and president of Vertical Consultants and former AT&T attorney.